Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Prognard. I'm your host, Jacob Williams. So today I want to do a first look at a variant setup for Axis and Allies Global 1940 2nd Edition. This variant setup is called Global 1942, and it's an official setup variant from Larry Harris himself. And the goal that he had when making this setup was that this was supposed to be a version of the global game that can be played in one day. If you're unfamiliar with Global 1940, let me start with that. So there are two board games that you can buy from your game store. Like, you can't just go out and buy Axis and Allies Global 1940. You have to get Axis and Allies 1940 Europe, which is composed, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a crack here where there's actually two different maps. See that? Now I won't be able to get that to go back. There we go. And, there's one here. So these two boards make up Axis and Allies Europe 1940. And then there's Axis and Allies Pacific 1940, which are these two boards over here. Okay, you buy both of those games and you put it together, and that's Axis and Allies Global 1940. Which, if you play to completion, you're probably talking about a good 24 hours of playtime. All right. So what Larry Harris did was he made an alternate setup to more resemble the state of the war in 1942. So that way you don't have any political situations. Everybody's already at war. And because what you might not know if you haven't played 1940 is that there's political situations like Russia and Germany have a non-aggression pact, so they don't start off at war right away. America is neutral, and they're not in the war right away. So they have political situations that can drag out the game. All right, now before I start talking and doing a first look at this, I kind of want to do something. I thought about breaking out a segment of this, or making a regular segment, sort of like my Armchair General series, called like Tools of the Trade or some other stupid name like that, where I would talk about game modifications or special things I do with my games to either pimp them out or to serve some other purpose. Well, with Axis and Allies, what I do is I have a what I call a mobile command center. And I'm going to kind of show you that system, and then I will talk more about this game. And if you kind of like this portion and would like to see more kind of things like that, I'll do some videos on that in the future. And due to the size of this board, I kind of have to film off of a tripod, so I apologize for making anyone motion sick in advance. All right, let's start off with the base component of the mobile command center, which is this ammo box. All right, this originally came from Field Marshal Games. However, this product is no longer being offered, so I actually found this on eBay and was able to score it for 60 bucks, which was an incredible deal because these originally went for 300, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it's an ammo box. You open it up, and it comes with a lot of these different trays for putting your pieces in. And there's enough room at the top for you to put rules and other stuff like that in there. They did make two versions of this, and one was able to keep the boards, but I don't have that one, unfortunately, so I actually have to carry my boards separately. All right, but these are filled up with trays, and I'll show you the trays here in just a minute. And it's got this lid and latch mechanism. It's very nice for keeping all of your miniature pieces in. And like I said, once you have it filled up, I can put things in it like rule books. You got to have those. Keep that mobile. And then I have, sorry for the funny angle there, I have this file that I put in there. And what do I have in the file? Well, I've got the rules for this variant setup, which we're talking about in this video. I have some national objective markers, or sorry, player aids, which come in handy. I just got these off of BGG. I like them because they let you know what your national objectives are if you have to be at war. And then these are the perfect size for a roundel to put on there to let you know you have accomplished an objective. Let me see if I can demonstrate that real quick. So if I have USA controls the Philippines, I can put a roundel on it and I know that I've completed that objective. And this is nice because if you're playing allies, there's one for the Axis, and you can keep track of what you can do to kind of screw them out of their national objectives. It works really well. I like this a lot, and I think this is mandatory. And I printed this up on cardstock, so that way it's a little bit nicer on the table. And then I've got just the regular Global 1940 setup charts. And the reason why I did this was because the setup charts are on the little boxes that the units come in the base game. Those little boxes are kind of like their little trays. Oh, and I also keep some research and development charts, some battle boards, and casualty strips. Okay. So, what I was saying is to replace the classic foam trays that came in the 1984 edition, they have these like little boxes, which I should have brought one on camera, but I didn't. Sorry about that. And then the setups are actually on the lids of the boxes. So to make my game more mobile, I printed them up on these sheets so I can put it in the ammo box and I have it with me when I go to play Axis and Allies. If I'm not playing it at the house, if I'm playing it at my local game store, it really helps out. All right, let me show you these trays. So these are the trays that come with the ammo box. And these are pretty nice. I like that they're divided into 3 segments so I can organize my pieces somewhat. Between air units, sea units, land units, okay? Whereas the box that comes with the Global 1940, there's no dividers, it's just all in one place, which is better than nothing, which is coming in the regular version of the game, which oddly enough is called Axis and Allies 1942. So it's better than that, but maybe not as good as the original styrofoam trays that you could have a little more organization. And a lot of people use Plano boxes that work a little bit better. But these are a good in-between, and I like how they have the names of the country on them. They're made out of wood, and they have a space for your dice. So let me talk about these dice real quick. You can get these. I got these at Field Marshal Games. But Field Marshal Games has kind of had some bad customer service lately, and so I kind of don't recommend them at this time. But you can get these exact same dice from historicalboardgaming.com or from I Will Never Grow Up Games, okay? And it's a 6-sided die, but the insignia of each country is on the number 1 face, okay? So it's cool that there's a little space for your dice as well. You'll notice that I've got roundels for the countries in these little plastic trays. And these plastic trays came in this storage box that I got from Lowe's. And it's great that they come out. I can give each player their own set of roundels. And I've customized my game by ordering extra roundels from historicalboardgaming.com. So I tried to get it to where I had 50 roundels for each major power and 30 roundels for each minor power, just so I have enough. I wasn't able to get enough of these Union Jack roundels, which kind of sucks, because I'd like to use those for the UK Pacific Theater, but only 2 of these come per copy of Axis and Allies Pacific 1940, so Historical Board Gaming has a hard time keeping them in stock. I don't have too many extra units. I will need to order some more German tanks, because this new setup needs more tanks than what comes in the Axis and Allies Europe box by 2. You'll need 2 extra tanks, and I made up for it by pulling them out of my 1942 set, which is the base game. So just so that to avoid confusion, if I say global 1942, I'm referring to this variant setup. If I just say Axis and Allies 1942, I'm talking about the regular base edition of the game that comes in one box and looks more like the classic Axis and Allies. Okay, so that's what I do. And then in my box here, these were where all the roundels would go for the countries. And then I've got some spots for classic anti-aircraft guns, these gray factories that started coming in the games since the revised edition in 2004, and then some classic white factories from the 1984 edition. I use the gray ones, for major factories or major industrial complexes, and I use these for minor ones. And then I've got like a little sewing organizer from Michaels, and then these are the chits that come with the new versions of the game. And I'm sorry, there's just something about classic Axis and Allies having a miniature for the game that I really like. So that's why I bought some of these off of eBay and put them in here. And here's your naval bases and airfields. All right, I also have some marshalling cards in here. These are extra ones I bought. These came originally in the 2004 revised edition, but they work for all the games, so I bought an extra set to have, and these come quite handy from time to time. I've got some paper money. The newer editions of this game don't come with money, so I ordered a couple of stacks of these. I think they call them Battle Bucks from historicalboardgaming.com. I really like it. You can also use poker chips, but what I don't recommend is just tracking it on paper, because that's no fun. And to me, the Axis and Allies experience is using paper money and having trays and having miniature factories. Those are the things that make the game, in my opinion. I've got some chips right here. These are green chips. These are the red chips. To be honest, I rarely use these because, as you can see, I've got tons of gray chips on the board, and I still have a whole compartment full of gray chips. Now, I have ordered extra chips because you're going to have 2 baggies of chips, one for the Europe game and one for the Pacific game. And then on top of that, I think I bought 3 extra bags of chips between eBay and Historical Board Gaming. It's important to have lots of chips for this game. But I've got my green and red in here if I ever need them, and I typically need them late game. There's the original dice that came with the games. I've got a bag full of Chessex custom Axis and Allies dice here, and same deal, they have unique symbols. Oh, that's some custom dice I had made for Labyrinth, and then there's the Japanese flag. So some early custom dice that I had. And then I have some oil derricks that I use for Middle East combat, which I did a video on. And then I've got some neutral army figures there, and some neutral planes, which again go with Middle East combat. So this mobile command center, at least this portion, also goes with me when I play Middle East combat. Okay, so there's the trays and all that. And then what I usually do for the boards is I have this piece of Hugo's Amazing Tape that I wrap around all 4 board sections when I need to transport it to game night. Okay, let's talk, now that I've talked about my mobile command center, let's actually dive into this variant. So again, this is designed to save time, and full disclosure, I haven't actually played this yet. I just learned about this variant, and I wanted to set it up and get it on camera, because what I like about this is, A, it's official. I tend not to like variants that players in the community make, because I don't know if they do the proper testing. I don't like how it doesn't conform to the designer's vision necessarily. So what I like about this is that it's official. Larry Harris himself, designer of Axis and Allies, came up with this variant. All right, so that's what I like. And then what I find, so I haven't played it, so everything that I'm about to say are just my initial thoughts. It's really interesting that this game mirrors a lot of what's going on in Axis and Allies 1942, but it's on the larger scale using the global 1940 second edition map. Some of the biggest changes you'll see are in Europe. Finland has already become an Axis country, so you no longer have to march a troop in there to get that on your side. They've already made significant progress into Russia and even being adjacent to Moscow. Russia gets to go first in this game, like more of the classic games. And I've heard from online that they can push a lot of this German offensive back in the first turn. All right, so things may not be as dire as they look, but if you've played any of the other newer versions of Axis and Allies, this kind of mirrors that setup. Italy is pushed back a little bit. They just have their main peninsula, and they don't have southern France. A lot of German players will let Italy have that in order to keep them relevant. They don't have Yugoslavia or any of these other neutral countries in here. And then they've expanded one scooch in Africa by having Tunisia. And then you get, I guess this is supposed to represent Rommel. They've got down in Tobruk, they've got a decent setup. All right, so those are the main difference. Britain has control of these Italian satellite nations, but they only Ethiopia was worth $1 anyway, so not much of a big loss for them. All right, so those are the major changes you're going to see to the map. France is already knocked out of the game. And then I think it's interesting, I mean, this is historic versus actual gaming. I see a lot of AA players not take this territory because when the Allies take it back, they can't use the factory that's usually there in the Global 40 setup. I guess they even that out by taking the minor industrial complex out of there. But France still has their surface warships. They're just no longer, well, I guess they don't have any of the ones that started out here. Or I wonder if these represent Vichy France. That'd be interesting. I should maybe see the designer's notes or something. What else is there to talk about with the European side? Oh, and here's kind of what I use these neutral figures for. So these neutral countries have an army, and I just kind of put that there just to kind of make the board look better. You know, not really needed, but kind of cool. All right, so let's maybe see what's changed over on the Asian side. Because again, you're getting more of this 1942 set. I apologize for that big glare. I've been having some lighting issues here in the basement and need one of those main overhead lights on. China starts a little more decimated. But again, this really kind of looks like the 1942 setup, except for these would be American pieces since China is not a playable country there. I've got a, this is supposed to represent the Flying Tigers. This is actually a fighter from the anniversary edition that I took out of my copy just to keep it distinguished from the P-37 fighters that America has out of the box. All right, so what's changed here on the Asian map? Well, Japan has, I don't know, pretty much the same land territory. They start off with Hong Kong. They've taken French Indochina / Vietnam. They've taken Malaya. They also have some of these Dutch territories, Sumatra, Java, Borneo, and Dutch New Guinea and New Guinea. They have a lot more of these islands. But I think what's even more interesting is that Britain has already pushed back to basically India. They do have Burma, but who cares? And then just a whole lot of Japanese forces in the area. A lot of people that I've been reading their comments online is saying that the way this game works out is that it's pretty easy to take on Germany, but it's really difficult to take on the Axis, or sorry, Japan over here in the Pacific. There's not as many Russian infantry over here at the northern borders of Mongolia. I'm pretty sure the Mongolian rule is still in effect for this game, so I don't know how much of a problem it is. And besides, all those territories are only worth $1 or so. So it'll be interesting if a lot of players start scooting these people all the way back to Moscow. The U.S. has a little bit bigger force at Hawaii, but it looks like they're primed for Pearl Harbor 2.0. You got a decent amount of Japanese ships over here, and over here in the Carolina Islands, and with these naval bases, they have no problem getting to the Hawaiian Islands. And if you're not aware, the naval bases and air bases allow your units to get more movement. All right. America starts with the 3 major industrial complexes right off, as opposed to the miners that gets upgraded once they get into the war. They got a guy in Alaska, which is a little bit different. Anzac has a little bit different setup going on. They have, I want to say, one less plane, though I could be off. And then they still have their boats, but they have a guy over here in Western Australia, which is pretty interesting. But I'm thinking they're going to play a little more of a role in this game, because they need to get into Dutch New Guinea and New Guinea, because that's part of their national objective. So if they want to get some more money to fight in the war, they're going to have to go there. But they do kind of have some support from the Americans over here in the Solomon Islands. But I don't know, their fleet's going to be smashed over here in Hawaii maybe, or maybe they divert some over here. I don't know. It should be interesting how this plays out. I think I had a rogue German destroyer over here that should not be there. So what else is there to say about this setup? I'm not really sure. I think it's really interesting. Oh, and I should have mentioned this. If you're looking for this variant setup, I'll try to put a link in the description. But if you go over to axisandallies.org and look on their forums in the Global 1940 section, I believe it's one of the pinned posts on that site. So it's pretty easy to get a hold of. You don't have to buy it or anything. And I think that's why I like it, offering an alternate setup to use the components you already have and not spend any more money. So that's always nice. Oh, and speaking of money, look at these incomes. They're pretty crazy. Germany starts off with 54 IPCs, and Japan starts off with 48. So that's really crazy. And then UK, Britain's down to $10. It's going to be really hard for them to defend India. They might be taking the Russian strategy where all they do is throw their money on infantry. So what else is there to say about this? Not too much. Again, this is really just meant as a first look and not an actual review or anything. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, go to axisandallies.org if you want to download the setup rules for yourself and try it out. And if you do, let me know how you like it. Thanks.